All Hallows Eve, the evening all your nightmares come to life. All the creatures of the night come out to play. It's time to pay tribute to this terrifying month. So join us as we celebrate a sinister season. This is the Venom month of horrors. The reboot.
Screenwriter Don Mancini came up with the idea for the classic Child's Play movie, the horror flick about a serial killer doll voiced by Brad Dourif chasing down a kid called Andy to try to repossess his body. You know, that old cliché.
This looks just excellent.
During the 80s, when everything was high on consumerism, so it felt fitting to feature an entire movie about a toy quite literally trying to ruin a person's life. Mancini was also struggling as an openly gay man with father issues, so he focused the film on a struggling single mother, while he created the trope of kids called Andy with weird toys having a father vanish into the abyss.
Terrific!
The original idea was actually a doll that contained fake blood and it would bleed if the child played with it too violently. Kinda like those dolls that piss, but a lot more disturbed.
You got it!
The doll would have only come to life once Andy accidentally mixed his own blood with Chucky's. But this doll would have then represented Andy's anger and rage and would have only attacked his enemies. But they'd save that plot point for another installment, kind of. However, producers realised that no sane parent would actually buy their young child a doll that contained fake blood. So instead, they decided to have a serial killer use voodoo black magic to escape a police officer to supernaturally manifest himself inside a plastic toy instead.
God damn it.
Surprisingly, despite its silly premise, it was a big hit, even by Roger I Hate Slasher Films Ebert himself. It was perceived as a fresh take on slasher movies, and one to amplify people's phobia of puppets and dolls. Yeah, the setup is pretty flimsy. Like, really flimsy. It is silly, but it's an excuse to have a killer inside a doll. If we can ignore dinosaurs somehow being cloned for an excuse to have dinosaurs, we can do that to get a killer doll, right? Shut up, it's the exact same thing. The opening is so stupid, but man, I love his reaction to the whole thing.
Oh God, I'm dying.
Even though it's a weak excuse to get him inside the doll, I can let it slide, but then it's just so random and out of nowhere. There's no backstory, no context, he's just running from the cop and then boom, he knows how to all of a sudden become a goddamn doll. And if you think they don't revisit it, you'd be mistaken. He meets up with a guy who taught him this and actually uses a voodoo doll. Okay, this is ridiculous. Like Freddy Krueger 6 movies deep ridiculous. I mean, it's already pretty bad that the Chucky on TV is scarier than the actual Chucky. Look at him! Jesus Christ! And I get that she's a struggling single mother, but she flat out leaves her 6-year-old son to his own devices. Look at this! Could have set the whole house on fire. Just irresponsible parenting. And she teaches him awful life lessons.
I know. You want some toys, don't you? Not boring old clothes.
Terrible mother. In fact, she's best mates with a paedophile as well.
I'll take care of Andy for you.
Peggy, you can't do it again.
Don't be silly. It'll be the hottest date I've had in months.
At least they accurately depict what it's like to work in retail.
Mrs. Howe has taken sick and we're shorthanded tonight. You'll have to fill in for her.
I can't. I have to pick up my son at the daycare center in an hour.
I'm sorry, this is an emergency.
Wait a second.
Andy's mother is called Karen, played by Catherine Hicks. And you're able to get behind her character. She tries her absolute best to make him happy, and you can tell he's her entire world. But Andy, played by Alex Vincent, is terrible in this movie. I'm sorry. I know he's just a kid, he's a 6-year-old child, but I don't care, that's not an excuse. You want to try and make it in the movie business? Learn to take it like everybody else. He is shit in this.
Hey, Chucky, you're not watching me. Wanna see my room? She had an accident. Good guy PJ Sneakers. His real name is Charles Lee Ray. 'Cause she saw Chucky and it scared her so much she fell out.
Jesus Christ, he can't even fall backwards and make it look convincing. Or avoid looking at the camera. Can you do anything right? He even has a delay to being knocked out. He's completely useless. He has to cry at one point, and that is pretty good. They probably just showed him clips of his own performance. And of course, it's another film where the kid tells the truth, but nobody believes him.
Oh no, what did Chucky do? Walk into the living room and turn it on all by himself?
Well, yes! It does have a silly build-up, but honestly, the movie's suspense is handled really well. Karen starts to notice Chucky moving, and it is really eerie. There's no music, you just watch it unfold, and it's totally unnerving. I mean, it's so easy to see why it made people scared of dolls for years.
He said Aunt Maggie was a real bitch and got what she deserved.
Why don't they ever just turn the damn light on? She even reads in pure darkness. Look at this. There's not even a scene to show that the power's being cut. They just have a phobia of electricity. Maybe their bill is too high. Prices are rising, you know. Seeing Chucky come to life takes time. It is really creepy. Though the POV shot and hearing him breathe like Darth Vader is a bit silly. So Karen has to work and her nonce best friend has to babysit. But the thing is, you actually don't want her to die. It's different to other slashers because she's looking after a helpless 6-year-old boy. If she dies, he's completely on his own and defenseless. Her death looks cool though. But why doesn't Chucky just kill Andy as well? He could literally be free right now. He goes on to murder his old enemies, so why not kill Andy, do a runner, and then kill them? He literally doesn't need the kid. But the most annoying part is that her murder isn't even announced.
She fell from your kitchen window.
You're just not going to mention that she took a fucking hammer in the eye beforehand? No, seriously, that is a detail that is never brought up. And this cop flat out accuses a 6-year-old child of murder.
They look like footprints, don't they? Very small footprints.
What are you implying?
I don't know.
How did he get this job? And why does he say he checked out Andy's shoes
Besides, I already checked his closet. None of his shoes match these prints.
and then immediately asks him to see his shoes again? Who hired you? They don't show Chucky actually alive for most of the movie. The suspense and tension is great.
Now, you don't really think that Chucky is alive, do you?
But he is.
I mean, the clever little bastard even looks to see Karen is listening in so he doesn't come to life. Clever cunt. But what I don't understand is why Chucky told him his real name in the first place. I mean, he watches the news around him. Does he think Andy would be completely fine with him being a serial killer? What if he remembered the name?
Charles Lee Ray died there.
Who?
And how the hell does she not know who Charles Lee Ray is? He's a local serial killer who's all over the news. And the school clearly has terrible security, or a magician somewhere as all the parents vanish within 5 seconds, and nobody calls his mum to let her know that he's absent. And he somehow gets on a train with no money, and nobody stops or questions him. They probably just wanted to save money by having Andy just talk to an inanimate object all the time. But hey, it works for storytelling, so I really don't care. Till he becomes the monster from The Evil Dead, and Andy runs towards the gun buyer. Kid deserves to die. As the film progresses, we slowly see his arm moving to blow up his old enemy. And I must admit, there's a lot of heart and emotion in this. Karen is panicking as she believes Andy is going to be taken away from her, but he is trying to profess his innocence. And when she finally suspects that he actually is alive, this shot is amazing. Your eyes are completely fixated on Chucky, waiting for him to move. She moves across the room, and when she comes back, you expect him to be gone. It's great suspense. Although it still takes her forever to realise. I mean, she notices his batteries aren't in, which they somehow didn't spot before. Then she notices no batteries are in him. Then he gives her an exorcist twist. Then she drops him and he rolls under the couch, and she still checks if he's alive. What does it take? But you do feel her pure desperation as she gives it a chance and entertains her son by trying to talk to the doll. One subplot they were going to go with was actually not showing Chucky move at all until the climax. It was going to be left ambiguous that maybe Andy is actually the killer after all. The audience would be kept in the dark until he finally came to life, and I actually think that would have been a lot cooler. But when he does finally spring to life, it is so dark. Brad Dourif's voice is so threatening, although some facial expressions are pretty bad. But he manages to finally escape because they apparently live in the world's biggest apartment building. But when she tries to tell the cops her story, their reactions are brilliant.
He came alive in my hand. I dropped him and he got up and ran out of the apartment.
Good night, Mrs. Barkley.
Why won't you believe me?
Because I'm sane, Mrs. Barkley. Sane and rational.
There's a nice eerie scene where she goes around trying to find who sold her the doll. There's hardly any dialogue, but some weird atmospheric music plays, and it really fits the tone of the film. She even nearly gets raped for answers, but it's a good thing the cop now believes in crazy doll stories. Despite the film being quite scary at points, there are so many moments that just look silly.
Hi, Mikey!
He even comes down the damn chimney at one point. And look at this shot, is this Looney Tunes? It goes back and forth from serious thriller to ridiculous cartoon, it's all over the place. I mean, this dumbass gets strangled and attacked and for some reason still continues driving. Why? Just stop the car and get out, you idiot! Yeah, you deserve that. Oh, and he never tells Karen that Chucky attacked him either.
And he spent a lot of time with this man.
Oh, and by the way, I know he's alive now. He even didn't know that Chucky was short for Charles!
His nickname was Chucky.
Who hired you? Obviously the effects haven't aged that well, but for their time they mostly look fine. But then we get the setup for the movie.
The more time you spend in that body, the more human you become.
That makes no sense. The more time you spend not being a human, the more human you become.
Well, John, it's been fun, but I gotta go. I have a date with a 6-year-old boy.
Can adults please stop trying to date this poor child? Now that I think about it, this is a grown man who sleeps with the boy. And by the way, how does this voodoo guy know how to do all of this shit anyway? How often has this happened? They lock Andy in an acting clinic, but look at how skinny he is and how wide the bars are. Just climb out! Chucky ends up killing his doctor with some electrotherapy shit, and god damn it is creative. What a kill. The thing is, you get invested in the story and scares, but then you remember, oh yeah, it's about stupid voodoo magic. Back to this crap. But my god, these characters are dumb. After all of this, and they still take their eyes off of Chucky. Yeah, throw him across the room and that's him sorted. But Andy does make up for all of his bad moments with this.
We're friends to the end, remember?
This is the end, friend.
Wow. The production team deserves all the awards for this look of Chucky. My god, it looks amazing. I won't even bother with the lazy Monty Python clips. It looks incredible. But it has more false endings than Return of the King. He just keeps coming back. How many lives does this little shithead have? Oh yeah, just leave the kid alone with the possessed, disembodied corpse of the serial killer doll that keeps coming back after everything you've thrown at him. I'm sure it'll be fine. The movie is pretty good. There are some silly moments, but there are also some really chilling and scary ones. The effects and production are incredible for the most part, and the characters are likeable and easy to root for. Child's Play is pretty damn good and worth checking out. But hey, at least now we know we've got Karen and 2 police officers that know that Chucky's alive. So there's going to be lots of support in the sequel.